Tim is joining Dune Part 2. I'm sure most people immediately will be asking the famous, who? If you have been a connoisseur of cinematic culture, you probably have seen him. He's been in a ton of things. Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, Minority Report, just a lot of roles. He's done stuff with the Coens. Again, he has a very, very large CV. So he's been around the block a few times. He's even directed a few things. I know him pretty well. I like his work. He's a very great actor. But again, the issue is not his talent or skill level, but why is this being announced now? And is he literally joining now that it's in post production? That seems really weird. It's not unprecedented, but it is very strange. It could be the case he was always a part of the cast, but they didn't let out that he was a part of the cast. Why not? I'm not sure, so it's time to get into speculation. And I'm guessing this is somewhat deliberate to build up buzz for Dune Part 2. So, all right, so Tim has joined. So, who is he playing? Well, I think we all know the smart money would be on the Count. Well, according to my own subscribers, as well as other fans, they clearly are somewhat mixed on who they've been picking for certain roles. And I know for the Count, a lot of people really wanted Jeff Goldblum. That was a really, really big fan favorite that they really wanted for that particular role. Other people have said Steve Buscemi, also a respectable pick. Of course, some people are saying an Arabic or Middle Eastern actor should be doing the role. Maybe. But definitely among the fans, this was not the first choice for the Count. We don't know he's playing the Count, to be fair, but I would assume it is the Count. That would make a lot of sense since we already have Margot, and that's already been fulfilled by Leia. That's been a concern of mine whether Hesimir was even going to show up. So apparently they may have answered that saying, yes, he will appear. It will probably be a small role. And again, in the novel proper, yes, the Count is only in a few places. So yes, he doesn't have to be a big part of the story. Still, I'd be a little alarmed that he's just going to basically end up as a glorified cameo. It's better than nothing. And I will be honest, I was preparing a kind of video on not exactly panic, but a little concern that the proportion was a little off and there's way too much focus on the female actresses. At the same time, I'm not one of these soy boys that goes super crazy whenever a woman appears on screen and I think there's some kind of MCU vagina conspiracy. Still, it did seem that Denis was focused a little bit too much on the female side of Dune and not as much on the male side. So this is reassuring news that that's not occurring. We will have a healthy proportion of, quote, beef or male parts in Dune Part 2. What are some of the other possibilities? Well, probably the biggest second possibility would have to be the guild. How is the guild going to be represented? Is he going to be just one of the guild's men? Is he going to be the navigator? Will he be doing the voice of the navigator? It's unclear. The navigator isn't technically a big part of the first novel. That's really in David Lynch's Dune, but there are a few homages in Dune Part 1 to the David Lynch film. This might be a clever way of setting up Dune Messiah, just from a Denis kind of angle. So we have the Count and we have the Guild. The other possibilities would be he's one of the Fremen and or he's part of, minor spoilers, Gurney's gang. So yes, probably Gurney is alive. I think it's pretty much confirmed Gurney will be a big part of Dune Part 2. He could be part of Gurney's gang or one of the Fremen. Any one of these roles would raise a lot of questions and dilemmas. They're not huge dilemmas, but they would create a few questions and puzzles to work through. That said, I do have a lot of confidence in Denis. His casting so far has been spot on. They've all been fairly picture perfect, with a few exceptions. Like, obviously, Oscar Isaac doesn't really match technically the book description of the Duke, but again, some minor changes are possible. And of course, we have the infamous Layat Kynes controversy, which I actually agree with the critics, saying I don't think that was a wise decision to change Layat Kynes. But again, it didn't damage the story too much. It is going to create a lot of questions and problems later for how Fremen culture really operates, especially with Dune Messiah, when there's a conspiracy against Paul. And finally, Austin has opened up a little bit on his process with tackling the, quote, villain role in Dune Part 2. And it's as we expected. He says the villain thinks he's the hero in his own mind. We kind of knew that. Nothing earth-shattering, but it's good to know that he's really thinking through how he's going to approach the role. I do hope they keep a little bit of the sci-fi influence with the 2000 adaptation where the Baron and his young apprentice are pure evil, and it was fairly faithful in certain parts to how the Baron and his underlings operated. One of my favorite scenes to go back to when the Baron is berating him, saying, "Very good, boy. Why don't you just try to kill me up front? Do it direct." "Uncle, you taught me to do it through a second person. Come on, I'm not stupid." Very good, boy. And then he slaps him on the cheek. That was pretty hilarious. So I hope the evil stuff is still kept fairly evil. But I understand, yes, Dune is postmodern. It's operating in a gray area. For the most part, good news. I don't have any issue with the casting, but it is creating a lot of questions. Mostly good questions, but still a lot of questions about what Denis is up to with Dune Part 2.